Good evening. This is Mark Mabry. You are watching the Bonfire on the Believe page, and you might be wondering, why is he back again? Because all the good hosts are out of town, and I am thankful to be here with a good friend and a brother, Kyle Turley. Today's story, today's interview, whatever, is a redemption story that's deep and beautiful and powerful, and a reminder about the power of the Savior to change the hearts of man, and the power of parents who have faith. But there's just so much that Kyle's going to bring us. But I want to do a brief introduction. Kyle has one of my favorite Wikipedia pages of any person I've ever read. He's like, wait, don't read the whole thing. No. It's awesome, but let's go highlights. He was the first lineman taken in the 1998 draft after impressing Saints coach Mike Ditka by turning in a 4.93 40-yard dash.
San Diego State University.
How does a guy that big run?
310 pounds.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's like a train.
Yeah. Hey, that's what it takes. They said that, you can break 5. Get down in those 4s, and your stock keeps going up. There's a checklist, right? I think it poignant, good segue for the day is just that. There's a checklist, and if you get back to that checklist and understand the obstacles that are going to be in front of you, and you prepare for those and put your diligence toward it, then you can accomplish great things, and that's what happened.
Yeah, you did, and you went on to become all rookie team.
Yep,
you played 109. Let me know if Wikipedia was wrong. You played 109 games in the league, started 107 of them. You had an ankle injury for 2 weeks. Is that basically?
I've had a bunch. I had a back injury that interrupted a great run I had. I'll put my first 6 years in the NFL up against anybody's career period at any position for what it was my job was to do on that field. I accomplished that, and for 6 years it was just an amazing experience. Having been drafted by Mike Ditka, just that alone.
Yeah, that's cool.
Coming from where I came from, in the town I was from, the background I was from, this was a divine moment for me. At the time, very, involved in the church. I had baptized 2 teammates, prior to this moment, was continuing to, know that God was in charge of my life. And the call came, and it was the 7th pick to the Saints.
Were you expecting that? Had they primed you for, hey, we might take you?
No. I honestly, I didn't think I was going to New Orleans. As it goes, if you have the opportunity to be a high draft pick, the NFL is just like college. They're going to bring in these top draft pick guys, all these guys as recruits. And so they're going to come in on trips. I went to trips to Dallas, Atlanta, Philly, Miami. It was just they just throw you into the fire, put you together. Some of the teams tried to just make it kind of real comfortable, and the O-line coach would meet you and take you to dinner. You go, nice steak dinner, and so you're being kind of wooed a little bit, like they would out of high school if you're a blue chip recruit or something like that. I took a few trips out of high school to colleges, but settled on San Diego State, and to come from that environment to now you're being paraded around with the best in the world, was quite an experience. And so, just the whole thing, was this, bunch of checklists that I had to, overcome against all these guys to make sure on draft day that I gave myself the best opportunity. And I didn't think I was going to the Saints. Nobody was saying it. My agent wasn't saying it. Thought I was going to go to Philly, I think at 13 or 14. And that's where I was going to be. But out of nowhere, my agent calls me that morning, because I got up early, and so I'm on the treadmill, just getting a workout in. I'm just doing
Trying to kill time, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep my mind off this whole moment. I'm sitting in my house, that I grew up in Moreno Valley, California, down there in the Inland Empire, and just this incredible moment. I've flown my grandma in, my dad was in, everybody was there. And it was just this awesome moment. And right before the draft started, my agent, hits me up. He's like, "Kyle, get ready. You're going to the Saints at 7." I was like, "What?"
Wow.
I had no idea. And then my next question was like, "Where's that? Where's Louisiana?"
You give me a map.
I don't even know where this is. Are you kidding me?
Did the physical preparation is totally obvious. What was your spiritual preparation for the NFL?
Just prayer, constantly. That's what it was.
What did you pray?
Where did I pray?
No, what did you pray?
What did I pray? Just gratitude, just so grateful and, thankful, when you understand, the opportunity that you're being presented, knowing that there's been and believing that there's been a plan, that's next level. It's, just that much more special.
Yeah.
So, all the prayers, in locker rooms before games, in all of these scenarios and situations, it was that moment, where you just knew that God was a part of this too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like everybody else saw it. Sorry, it's real emotional, especially now because of where we are, right? And why we're sitting here.
And there's a lot of water under the bridge between then and now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was cool, you go to New Orleans and the town loves you. Absolutely. I didn't know this nuance till I read it this morning. You were selected to the All-Pro team, invited to the Pro Bowl, turned down the invite to be the Grand Marshal of the Mardi Gras parade.
Endymion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people loved you. Even at one of the more the easiest YouTube moment, when you jumped to the defense of your quarterback, you got head twisted around.
Yeah.
Into the a passionate defense. The town, where there's all sorts of outcry saying this wild man, because you lifted a dude up and chucked him. Rightfully so, you were defending your friend, but the town sprang to your defense. There was Turley for mayor signs.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. They loved you and they loved your passion. And I want to use that as a pivot point. And you told me about your first year in the league, teaching seminary, early morning.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of background. What was that like?
Yeah, that was wild, because, still Mormon kid,
Yeah.
And, believe this. I mean, I cut the check, right out I'm arguing with my financial guy, like, what? People pay tithing after taxes? I was like, that's not right. No, fool. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, do it, man. It's the only reason I'm here. Just cut the check. I got
That's
a massive
amazing.
contract at number 7. There was
you did.
this huge shift in money. And I was like, no, I don't deserve this. There's guys on my team that are, telling me, you made more in one day signing your name to this piece of paper I made in 10 years, just so you know. And they're
Wow.
guys that I'm going to be playing with, that I respect. I'm like, this is an honor, So again, I carried this over, and I was just it was me. It was a part of my life. Being in the locker room, you have all these guys that are from all these walks of life, all these different Christian backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds. I've got great brothers on all sides of every religion. That was the beauty, I think, of sports growing up in a locker room, is you really get to see the world and know that we're all the same, because we really are. Once you're in these confines where you have to really band together as brothers, or family, as they like to say in football. And so, that environment put me around so many different people, and, they'd have the Lord's Prayer. I mean, I know it by heart, you know what I mean? Our Father art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we can forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us of evil. Thou is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever and ever. Amen. This is like every game, right? That the whole team says this
so
before
cool.
you run onto the field.
Did all your teams do that, or just the
Yeah?
one?
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that.
That's in every locker room. I don't think I've ever been in a pregame when you don't say the Lord's Prayer. So but again, you got all these different walks of life. Even the Muslim guys are saying it, because it's Allah's God. Everything is the Lord's Prayer, right? And so it was unique, and then people from all walks of life. And so I tried to hold that torch. I'm my greatest guys that I watched playing football were like Danny White. He was Mormon. That was my connection. My dad was a quarterback. He went to BYU before LaBelle Edwards was a coach. So he kind of got caught in this mix where he didn't finish his career there. He was a phenomenal quarterback out of Arizona and holds all kinds of high school records still out there at Paradise Valley. And, it took me to make sure, we saw it in the glass case at his high school,
So cool.
that he's still the guy. Turned down ASU to go to BYU, and they didn't at the time save scholarships for missionaries. So if you
BYU
chose to
didn't?
the head coach
Wow.
didn't like guys going on missions, and that's
Interesting.
what my dad said. And this is pre LaVelle Edwards, and so he went to Guatemala on his mission, came home, and they didn't have a scholarship for him, and went to work, and then RM, get married, the whole deal. It's
Wow.
not easy being a football player, especially back then, and where the game was, even up until when I played, where a lot of things shifted. So anyways, you really try to carry that torch for all those guys that you knew, Merlin Olsen, all these cats that you grew up watching, playing football, and then go on to do these amazing things in life too, as actors and whatnot. And so, you find this kinship in that. You grow up, you believe in the church and all these other things. And so it was, real thing for me to carry that torch. I felt empowered by that. I'm 7th pick to the Saints. Like, I'm wearing the badge. Like this is my duty, to go out and be this guy, right? And so, I dedicated to it. Teaching seminary before practice, they gave me the calling. I was like, oh, whoa. Like, really? Like, this is hard enough. Now y'all are going to throw a seminary teacher on me out here?
You're like, maybe the bishop didn't read the paper.
Yeah.
Like, does he know what my job
I think they
entails?
just think we run and jog around out there in shorts, like hey.
But you loved it.
Yeah.
And
No, I
I'm sure,
loved it. No,
I'm sure
I
your
loved it.
students loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. Every morning, getting up and being there for them, seeing the class, really respond to what we're doing, what we're talking about, and just giving them what I felt from my heart and my mind, from how I grew up in the church. I come from a very stout background in the church from back in the day. You and I have a relation because of this.
We learned on the family, whatever. What's the app called?
I don't know.
Family Search. We learned on Family Search that we're cousins. That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, it really is, So you got all this lineage, all this history, and I've always kept that as this question in the back of my mind that, you have to truly contemplate the church on another level. It's just what these people went through just to live. And why they did it for this church. That was just this thing that was just constant ringing in my head. You have this legacy to go back to, and know that these things that are happening to you aren't just because of you're 6'5", 300 pounds, can run a 4.9, 340 and jump out the gym, whatever, and bench the world. You really have to understand where that came from. That came from these people that suffered and bled to create this DNA over these lineage of time of people surviving. When you start really examining that and the survival blood that you have inside of you, because I think the majority of people in America have that. In every locker room, you could clearly see it.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys just don't even work out, and they're just these monsters, and that's, through evolution of survival and having these strong people and what they went through and experienced, and to look back on that as a member of the church was really something I took a lot of pride in, and was always standing up for it. And, they'd have preachers come to the locker room. I remember one time they said, if one person just came to Jesus, we'd win a Super Bowl. And I'm like, well, I guess y'all aren't listening to me, because that's the one person that you guys are failing to say, this guy's got a message here, and he's doing these things, and he's like teaching seminary, like before going to practice, and, having all these things that he's bringing to the locker room, and, I would always tell him, like, there's this opportunity for everybody,
I love it.
Yeah.
Was there a time, was there a moment or like a slow fade when kind of the fire started to go out? Or I don't know how to ask that without being offensive.
No, and the fire never went out. Just life happened. Growing up the way I did, it was break away from the church, kind of in essence, in that my parents went through a divorce around 13, 14. So you saw, both my parents served missions. So you saw what we perceived as, this strong family in the church. We had our problems. Everybody has their problems.
Yeah.
But they became to the surface, and now we're, driving home one day with mom, and she's talking about, what do you guys think about Dad and I splitting up for a while? Like, what?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
We're just saying families could be together forever. What's she talking about? I mean, this was, we all took the sacrament Sunday. If I recall, we were sitting there together. Like, what's wrong with y'all? Like let's get this thing straight here. No, what? Wait, what? So, things like that continue to happen where, church for me was this thing that I just truly, firmly believed in. And I was always the guy in sacrament every Sunday, like I was itching to get up there this last Sunday. I thought it was sacrament. It was the first Sunday of the year, right? I was thinking it was going to be his fast Sunday. I kind of fasted because I work out and all these other things. And now we're at noon church. So I'm honoring my temple. I'm getting swole. I can't sit around and just not do something, get this mind going. And I want to sit in church humble, and I want to sit in church focused, I listen, my family, they're always like, Kyle, you always listen way too much in church. I didn't hear any of that. I'm like, I'm wanting to talk to you all about this. So I was always on it. And I think, in the whole scheme of it all, when you're someone who has this real love for anything, and then you see something occur, which for me was, I got married right out of college, and I got a girlfriend. I had her my senior year, and then I was swooped off, went to New Orleans in the NFL. Now all this money, all this fame, everything, and so buy a big old house, and then the girlfriend's coming to see me from California and all this and that, and my mom's like, you ain't making an honest woman of this girl, and I'm just like, I'm trying to do everything, I'm not trying, I'm just being me, and anyway, so I felt it though, and I prayed about it, of course. And I just felt like, yeah, that's right, and so, get married. And so we did. And so we got married. And unfortunately, for me, and seeing the dissolve of my parents' marriage and all this other stuff, it kind of, I think, really put a shadow on marriage. Yeah. And I think the value of it, more so than it was something you had to do to just kind of show everybody you're together. And that, the importance of it, because I should have taken it in the direction what I was doing, right? Because I was still going to church. I was still committed, doing service, all these other things, missionaries over the house all the time for, food and, in the streets, like, I started running into
cool.
guys that tell me this day, they're like, yeah, I was on my mission and you're like made such a big old deal about us, and it was so awesome, and everybody accepted us and stuff. So but that was just me, but marriage, because I think my parents divorced and the whole thing, and then having this view on eternal families, all that kind of get really disrupted.
Yeah.
That side of it kind of got really dulled down to where it wasn't that as valuable, in that I didn't put the principles of the church in the forefront of that pursuit. It was just like, all right, you got this girlfriend, and things are happening, and you need to make her wife, you need to marry her and stuff, and then because then right after that, though, I baptize her and all these other things, and we're on this same path. Like, we're going to go to the temple, and that's my goal. I'm just a man in the world trying to live this thing and being faced with all these things in front of me all the time, and do the best I can from a broken home. The church is true, and no shadow of a doubt in my mind whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then we get pregnant and have a child, my daughter, and then I, at the time, I was kind of recognizing things, but because I guess in a lot of ways everybody's background carries with them, and my parents, split up and all that was real kind of volatile. A lot of yelling, no physicality, just a lot of broken things and yelling and stuff like that, and people taking off and leaving and all that stuff. So, that carried and followed into my life and my relationships. And so it was a relationship thing for me, long story short, because it's a long story, man. A lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of pain and grief, and, things that happen in courtrooms and just all this madness that really just put this moment on me where I just felt like I was trying too hard to do everything right. And, honestly, I mean, it's a clear moment still, trying to hold my emotions, and because it's way too heavy to get down and, you get down on a knee and you pray to God to watch over you, because you're going to leave.
Yeah.
And you're going to go live in the world and find all these things that you missed in life, or at least put yourself in front of them. And so you can see what it is, the difference is, and how to get that back.
Yeah.
And, to literally have that moment where you knew to pray about it. that was, for me, it was a moment that truly impressed upon me, even in that God was going to be with me.
Yeah.
And he has, and he, there's no reason for me to be sitting here in front of you right now, period.
So thank you for opening up like that, because I think, there are people with pain that we don't see, and we figure maybe we assume, hey, they've left God, but your story about praying and saying, hey, I can't do this anymore, just have my back for a while.
Yeah.
Is telling.
Yeah, I needed it. It was because I got served the divorce papers.
Yeah.
The relationship was real volatile. So it just again, I baptized this girl, and everything just dissolved. It's like the adversary truly comes the hardest when you're trying to do good.
Yeah.
And when I think he knows that you've got this human in you, that is needing to know answers. I look at it now, it's all a part of the path. It's all a part of the what God had planned for me. There's not one thing that hasn't occurred in my life that, you try to go down these roads and challenge it. And I can seriously and honestly sit here and say every single word in my patriarchal blessing has come true. And it's like 3 pages long. They told me not to go on a mission, so I blamed the church for a little while. That was real hard, because I was ready. And so, there was there was a true this real thing against the church for me was like, do they want me? It was, BYU, stop recruiting me. What? Why? I thought I was ready. I was ready. I was gonna be a Cougar. This was huge. My parents went there. Like, this is my blood. Like, I'm gonna kill for these guys. I'm gonna destroy the whack. I'm gonna be the greatest player they ever had. And and then being committed and ready to go on the mission, and then you get a patriarchal blessing, and the patriarchal blessing literally tells you, no, this is not your path. You're not to go on a full-time mission, like literally. Wow. I'm like, wait, no. And they're like, no. I'm like, showing the bishop. They're like, no, Kyle, that says no. Like, wow. Like, it's up to you. You can go, if you want, but like, this literally says you have a different plan, and you're to go play football and be this guy and do all this stuff. And yeah, every word come true so far. It's incredible. And we're sitting here, so I can't.
No. And you had this, I don't want to call it checked out, but you're like, hey, delivery's stepping back for a little bit. And, there are injuries, there's going to different places, different teams.
Yeah.
And eventually, just like, to use your words, went the way of the world for a while. And I want to put a pin in that. There's a talent you have that's amazing. Kyle's a great musician and has music out. He's toured. He's done cool things with different NFL players, different bands. And I got to hear him play the other day. And he told a story about a song called Rain that he had written and played, and mentioned a documentary that had been made that I was in making some art, and when it was raining, and just mentioned it in passing, and then played the song. I liked the song anyway. It wasn't just because I got mentioned before it, even though that was kind of cool, but it was my favorite song that you played, and it hit me. But I wanted to talk to you about, before we pull out the guitar and play, when we did this, when we shot all that stuff for Reflections of Christ in the rain, I was sitting there post-processing, and I had this shot of John the Baptist and Jesus like hugging in the River Jordan, but we shot it in a rainstorm, and there was like raindrops in the water. And so one night late, I was sitting there and I was like, I gotta get rid of these raindrops. It says nothing about the rain in the Bible when Jesus got baptized. And so I started photoshopping out the raindrops, and I was stopped by the Spirit and said, no. Don't take out the raindrops. You don't need to try to make this look perfect. It is what it is. And where we are in the story right here, you are who you are. And you haven't tried to run from any of the harder, tougher moments. In fact, they've like made you who you are. You said there was a roadmap that you were blessed with. And so right after this song, I want to come back and I want to talk about the comeback, if you will. And I want to talk about Stacy. I want to talk about the kids. I want to talk about the temple. I want to talk about your baptism. But first, would you mind playing that song?
Yeah, no, I'd love to.
All right, let's do it. Let's set up the mics.
Appreciate it.
Rain keeps falling down, and the pain is always around. And you come and you go again. And I will always be your friend. When the rain keeps falling down, and the pain is always around. And you keep going down again. They all will never be your friend. And you came along and you broke my heart. And I knew right from the start that the rain will keep falling down, and the pain would always be around. And the rain keeps falling down, and the pain is always around. And you came along and you broke my heart. I knew right from the start that the rain will keep falling down, and the pain would always be around.
All right. There was a line in the song, the rain will always be around. Mm-hmm. The rain keeps coming down. Pain will always be around.
Yeah.
And I had this thought as we're shifting now toward kind of the comeback story. The world doesn't change. The opportunity to sin doesn't change. The opportunity to wander never changes. But at some point, there was a shift in where you decided, hey, I'm coming back.
Yeah. That was it.
Yeah. What does that look like? What precipitates that? And you found, like, in your moment in the wilderness or whatever we want to call it, You found a treasure. I met Stacy. She's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about meeting your wife, and then let's go from there to what happened the other day.
Sure.
I don't want to spoil it.
No, yeah, no, it was just a segue out of where we were at, just right from there. That moment of, I think, trusting God. I don't know how to really explain it. I mean, as a man, it's easy to explain this to other men. And I don't know, maybe it's easier for women to understand this because they have to submit so much in this world. You know what I mean, to the will of everything around them. I had to do that and just give my life right then and there to God. And it was a fun year and a half to 2 years of life. That. I sowed some oats, and but it was all in this directed path to meet this incredible person that came in my life.
Where did you guys meet?
Of all places, you meet your wife of your partner of 22 years on Bourbon Street, at a karaoke bar called Cat's Meow. Shout out. Yeah, no, I mean, these are places in New Orleans where, again, you grew up in the church, all these other things, but then you drift away, and you drift away in a city like New Orleans. That's you got another opportunity to really, go to that island. I liken it to Pinocchio when they send him off to that island in the dream, or whatever it was, and where all the boys are getting taken to.
Yep.
And so it was an amazing experience, and it gave me an opportunity to truly challenge that. And I think for God to really direct my life, where I can clearly look back on it and say that I should be dead in the streets. It's funny because I didn't drink. And so, there wasn't a blur for me. I remember everything. I was this Mormon kid who was just, saying, I'm going to go try to just hang around with my other friends now. Because I tried so hard to just be with the church and bring them to the church, that I'm like, maybe these guys got a better understanding of life that I can learn from, and that was true in a lot of ways. I met some great men and great guys that are, really been inspiration to me in this life, that are not members of the church, that, are of the world, you know what I mean? But you're still connected, and you're all watching each other in this environments, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe that's Peter, James, John, the whole deal and all. And, and so I just took that opportunity and it put me right in front of my wife, of now we're going on 20 years of marriage, and,
incredible.
Just had an amazing opportunity to add 3 more baptisms to my list.
Don't go there yet. We got to end there. All right.
Okay. All right.
I want to talk about now let's go specifically coming back to the church, and because you never forgot about God. You never forgot about, here's the question. It's a 2-part question, is why did you decide to come back to church specifically, and not just like, hey, I'm cool, I've got this relationship with God? And why do you think we need church?
I mean, because I was living that way, and I was still going to church here and there, but it was easy for me to not wake my kids up or wake my wife up, and just for me to get ready and go and, have that therapy moment, for me. It's like playing the football, having the football life, and then all the injuries, especially the cognitive ones, dealing with this brain. I mean, that's just a whole nother level, and only those who, from the military, have had traumatic, experiences, major head traumas, or anybody out there that's had traumatic experience in their life, or, you just come from this environment that, is just ingrained in violence, and seeming to be torture at times. And then, accountability and all these other things that you go back out in the real world with, and these things don't exist. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's offensive to some people, possibly. But you see, I think the majority of athletes really fall off in the real world because the real world just has no accountability. You know, you've grown up in this regimented life, and military and, you know, athletes, I think, come out of their environments, and we don't know how to operate out here. You know, that people aren't holding doors open, that people aren't saying yes sir, yes ma'am. No, it's great to be in the South because you experience that, but you know, being in Southern California or these other places, and even in the South in many ways, you know, just people in the real world don't adhere to these, you know, things that you have ingrained in you now, because since you were a kid, and you committed yourself to athletics and something bigger than yourself, you didn't compromise, you know, especially if you achieve this, you know, greatness in accomplishing something so big. So for me, you know, just having that experience, it really took me in this path, you know, to where I had to truly look inner and you know, why do I believe in this still? You know, because as much as I'm going to church off and on, you know, throughout all these years, you know, still taking the sacrament and sitting there proud, you know, like I'm like, no, I understand Jesus. I accept this. I got baptized. This is my right. You know, the church is my right. It's my bloodline. And, you know, for me, like you, I'm a big historian. So, you know, the things about the church for me and where it was and where it's at, and they start talking about all these stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, this stuff really matters, man. This was really important. And why are we going away from this? I'm just almost about to come back, you know, and now you guys are doing this, and now that's happening. It's like, you know, you're not really listening, you know what I mean? You're really building walls, constantly building walls and reasons why you just keep this, you know, I got faith, you know, Jesus died for me, and this whole attitude of that. And yet, you know, it's much bigger. You know, it's much bigger than that. And then you have to, you know, as a man, you still, you know, go in the world and come up, you have to really start to contemplate a lot of things. And if you really understand the things around you or really care to, then you'll start to really understand the church. You start to really understand what's going on. And so reading the scriptures, I mean, I went back to the beginning, you know, like start at Genesis and read the Bible. You know, all right, what does it mean to me now? I'm, you know, past 45, I've called suicide hotlines. I've got all this, you know, crazy madness stuff in my background. You know, life has meant nothing at times, you know, it's meant everything at moments. And it's just a tangled mess because of a lot of issues, you know, addicted to painkillers and all these things from playing sports. You know, you're on this regimen. You're not taking them in this excess level that some guys are, because you just can't, you know, otherwise it makes you sick. But you're still taking all those pills over like 25 years. You start in college, you blow your knee out, and here's Vicodin, here's all these drugs, you know, these pharmaceuticals that they want to give you, that really addicted me and clouded my mind significantly. You know, it's just off the wall rage episodes and manic episodes, and, you know, completely out of control for many years. And then it had real consequences from the cognitive injuries, concussions in football, having seizures, light sensitivity off the charts, you know, dizzy all the time. Vertigo was constant in my life. It was a daily battle to try. I couldn't sit here and do this interview right now without sunglasses on and my hat like really low. My hat's on just because I don't have any hair anymore. So
it's a good look. Most people aren't even tall enough to see your head. So
we've got a little nice little thing on there. So, but you know, it was a culmination of things that brought me to this moment. You know, fast forward to things still continuing to happen in my life now, going on 20 years of marriage. And I'm really having to contemplate, you know, what is the one thing that I'm missing? You know, we're having the missionaries over for dinner all the time. You know, you know, I'm going to lunch with you and Sean and all these great guys and the bishop and, you know, everybody else that's been so kind to us in the ward for the first year that we came back here, you know, because we lived here for about 7 years, and, you know, we still had, you know, involvement with the church kind of, but it was still just this. And I was at this moment in life where, you know, just another serious contemplative moment of, you know, having these same problems still exist in my life. And how am I going to do this the statistics aren't good for our community in
Yeah.
the NFL.
You're right.
You know, and you're seeing that. You know, and it's live on TV now. The consequences, right?
Last night.
Right? Last night, what you saw in that game with the Bills, and this guy. Those things are real, and that creates different people. You know,
Yeah.
and the only thing that brought me back was the power of the priesthood, the church, because when you're in that mindset where everything's just like the real world, you became attached to it, where it's just this mundane existence with no purpose. And so you get sucked into this black hole. And even at church, all the people, it's like, you want to talk to some people about stuff at church, and they're like, what? I'm sorry, I was looking at my phone. Kyle, you listen way too much. I'm like, this means something to me. Still this kid who was serious about the church, and like I'm waiting for the call. Why are we listening to these people? Why are we letting this government do this to us? This is insanity. We won before, we'll win again. You know what I mean? I know the history, and so it was this inner battle for me, and then just continuing to trust that God was going to speak to me one day, and it happened. It was a true moment in my life where you're faced with, the story of everybody, right? Enoch and the whole lot of them, right? And all the prophets and Moses and Joseph Smith. When you see this light and you can speak to God, that's so heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it to people.
What was it like?
What? I'm like, yeah, it's real.
What was it like? What was the moment where you're like, I'm coming back and I really want to bring my family? Was there a moment, or was it just kind of like an evolution?
No. Honestly, it's more of a faith. It's more of an inner trust in that, that you're a son of God. Mm-hmm. And that if you trust God with your life, that no matter what, right? And should we die before our journey's through, right? All is well, right? When you have that utter trust in God, and that God is going to take control of your life if you commit to Him, right? In this process, that put it in front of me. I'm going to try to do your will here. I'm here for this, like, because you get to these moments of loss and pivotal moments in your life where you have to make a decision, whether that's financial, marital, health wise. You have to make a change in your life. I've been there health wise. Having suffered from the grip of pharmaceutical addiction, and having to come out of that, horrific experience, and be able to speak about that and what the resolution in that was, and why it brought me here. That there's a literal reason that there are scriptures about the herbs of the earth for the benefit of man, and used in prudence, these things can work miracles. And all of the things that you look into Jesus's life more and what He did for everybody, and how this can help repair you from the inside. And it just takes that one thing. And it was just that one thing that sparked that thing inside of me, that there's one thing, then there's another, and there's another, and there's another, and I can conquer all of these things. And the hardest one, is just your family, right? Your life as a man, and what's your purpose? How does your wife see you? How do your kids look at you? And do they respect you? And what are you doing with your life? It was just that pivotal moment, because marriage is so hard, being in relationships, just being a family, period, and getting along with each other constantly, having all your differences. It's not easy, but if you can, truly put that focus of it back onto the trust of God and the Lord, and He's going to save you and your family by the promise that's been given, and I can't speak to anything more than that, and that I've trusted in that promise. And once I got back to trusting in the power of the priesthood, period,
Yeah.
You know, it was all these great brothers that have always been reaching out to me. You know, and I hope for the sisters in the church is these great, you know, women that are reaching out to them. If not, that it's their brothers. But for me, and that I guess, you know, lost feeling of the locker room, all these things, and that brotherhood that you have, because, you know, from the NFL and college, even everybody disbands and everybody leaves, and so you just don't have that unit anymore.
Yeah.
And to then, you know, realize that this is happening. You know, it was that moment for me. I was on this experience where, you know, I was, again, my wife and I were having struggles and trying to really, you know, try, you know, to be married, you know, again. And we're like, and we've been through this, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, ups and downs in a 20-year marriage, 22 years together, you know, and through, you know, not having the church in that, you know, I that's the one thing that you know, I know it's all God's plan, but again, there's certain things if you go back and do, maybe you could do them different. Your life wouldn't be so different. You'd be just that much better. You know,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have had these struggles because you just really wanted to be a married man in the church and raise your kids and baptize them and, you know, be a home teacher and do all this cool stuff and, you know, be a ward, you know, person doing something in the ward and all that. You know, you just loved that aspect of that family unit. At least that's how it was for me growing up. I'm sure
Yeah.
it was for you. It's a
Totally.
different era of the church. It was really, you know, I tried to talk to my family about it, especially growing up in Southern California. You know, when I did, I mean, it was just awesome.
Yeah.
You know, being in the church and seeing the church kind of shift in different ways and members, people falling off, and you know, it's like, you know, I'm one of them, right? I'm one of those people that how do you find your way back to that? You know, you keep saying, oh, it's not what it used to be. Well, you're not there, so you know you can't do anything about that. And quit pointing fingers. You got 3 pointing back at you. You know.
I thank you. Tell me about last Sunday. I had the honor to witness something awesome last Sunday, and hopefully we'll give a picture. You guys can flash it up on the screen of this beautiful moment. I tell you what, it was like jump up and sing hallelujah moment. What happened last Sunday?
I baptized my family. It was incredible. Now my wife and my kids I was telling my wife, like leading up to it, it's a pretty cool experience because like it's still, you know, I mean, struggles don't go away. You know, you're still fighting through these things, and you're trusting that all this is gonna, you know, keep working, and it is, right? And so, but you're still, when's the next shoe gonna drop? Kind of attitude, you know. Still, it's just a lingering thing in the back of your mind, you know, because again, it's a myriad of things that could trickle down from health to money to, you know, family to anything. This world's so unstable, and yet this one thing is bringing it all together where that doesn't matter, you know, like we're good. Like we're good. We keep going together. You know, it was me going back to church and just saying, I'm going to commit my life back to this process. And the only way I can save my family, the only way I can fix that is by fixing me. You know, they have to see that in me. You know, I can't just go and expect them, let's go to church and, you know, like, we're going to take the sacrament. You guys are getting baptized. You know, it's like, no, I can't put that on my family. You know?
They came to it. I think one of the most telling things to me was your son, Dean, gave the opening prayer. Mm-hmm. And in the prayer, he said, God, we just want to get closer to you. I just want to get closer to you. And I thought, how cool is that? The type of example that you set, you're like, guys, I want to get closer to God. Follow me if you want to. This is what I'm doing. And for them to see that, because you didn't force it, you didn't like demand that they get baptized.
No, not at all.
And it was so beautiful. It was so happy. And there was just family.
Yeah.
You know, it was family.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was. As a special moment. I can't really explain the feeling, I can't remember hardly any of the thing I said in the confirmations,
They were good.
Yeah, thank you. That's all God, man. I was telling, I was over at one of the other, at Sean's house, or the brother's house, and the other night they invited us over from their family home evening, and I was like, I didn't even know when I was giving my wife the blessing, like, geez, I can't even like say my name in this. Like, you're going to the temple and like you're gonna be married, and like I can't even say to Kyle. Like, am I even in this picture? Like, what? Like, no, this is coming straight from God. Like, shut up, get out of here. Like I'm blessing this woman right now. You know what I mean? It was so heavy, but it was that moment. And it was so heavy because of the commitment. I. I put him through the ringer. And to have your family that they've seen the worst of you, right?
Yeah.
Tell you that they want you to baptize them. So heavy, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh man, I just stopped battling the adversary. Like, for me, like, now you're throwing this on me now. Like, whoa. And I just, you're not going to make it, man,
Yeah.
That was so heavy leading up to that moment. And you're just trusting. And for me, it was just that reliance, again, on the Melchizedek priesthood and Melchizedek himself, and you read the scripture of him and who he was and the man that he was, and that the people around him, and that you're just this person who wants everybody to be good so bad that they see the worst in you all the time, because you're like, stop doing this, stop doing that, take it more serious. Like, Dad, but you achieved all this, and like, it's easy for you. It's like, no, it was simple. It was a simple plan. Just clean your room, make your bed every day, please. Like, and then it goes to way more difficult conversations than that. Between husbands and wives, and you're fighting, and you're doing all these different things, and trying to make it in this world and understand each other, right? And it's just without the church, it is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
You just can't. And I knew that that could be the thing for my family, of course. I'd always known that. I'd taken my family to church. Stacy's been with me to church all these years, plenty of times. We've been to baptisms. We've been to, all these things where, the offering's there, But I never took control of that in my life, to show them that it was that important to me, that I was willing enough to lose them, right?
Yeah.
Because it was exactly that. When you are willing to say, I don't know what's going to happen right now, because it has been this for so long, right? And you're trying to, give these hints and all this, and like, you're like, I need you to pick up some slack, right? But it never happens, because people who don't, unless you're in the church, you don't understand it, unless you truly go to seek it, just period, not in the church or out of church, just seek it, the Word of God.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to have that in your home, right? Because it's not going to be a part of your life. So it was real easy for me to just make it about me, and then just come back to my home and try to, be a better person. Whereas now, what happened in this experience is that I just took it upon myself to say, things are at such a pivotal point in life right now that I'm going back to church for me, that this is going to do things for me in my life that have been foretold in my patriarchal blessing as it continues to come true, and that I'm going to get back to, because that was me. We try to become somebody else out here for so many other people, right? You want to, because we're just able to do that. Some of us, we're able to support people and be that shoulder, for them, and we're strong and we can carry them and help them, right? But then you just find yourself in this moment where you've neglected yourself and who you were, and you have to face that, And now I need to get me back. And that was it. Getting me back, really putting the focus on me, the priesthood, getting back to just going, and being there at church, and accepting that all this outreach from the missionaries and all the brothers around me, from all the wards I've been a part of, from all my brothers back in California, we'd go surfing and we'd get together and we'd do all kinds of stuff, just us, and they'd come pick me up and we'd talk about church the whole time we're in the car and all these things. And Kyle, what's going on? We need to get you back. Yeah, I'm going, and this, that, and the other, whatever. And you just never gave it that serious thought to, well, like, man, God has sent these guys are messengers, like, for real.
Yeah.
It's like, I felt like so disrespectful that I wasn't listening to my brothers constantly reaching out. And I'm sitting here in this life going, where's my sign? And it's right in front of me. And it's all these great men that have been a part of my life.
I love that. And I we've got to wrap.
Yeah.
But I want to wrap on this because I think your story is an invitation and your story is a challenge. And so we want to leave a challenge. And the challenge is this: if you're wondering how to change the world around you, your family, your friends, start with you. I think that's the beauty of what Kyle just said. And realize the power of the atonement, the power of the organization of the church, the brotherhood and the sisterhood, to let you come back or help you just make that change, and then witness the changes in your own life. And so the challenge is this: consider just taking a step. Consider calling your bishop, your buddy who's a member, the missionaries, and just ask the question, what do I do next? How can I change? And watch what happens. And I have a testimony of man's ability and capacity to change with the power of Christ. Kyle has just shared his testimony of that, and I'm grateful. We're going to leave you with an awesome musical number by Sister Hawker that was recorded in a video. And as you contemplate the change in your own life, consider a little bit of the behind the scenes of this video. It was written by Nashville's own Sister Hawker in the MTC, the Missionary Training Center in Mexico, when she lost the ability to breathe for a minute and didn't know what to do, and she panicked. And the elders surrounded her, put her hands on her head, and by the power of the priesthood, commanded her to breathe, and she did. She went back to her room. She was learning Spanish at the time, just barely, and went back to her room and wrote this song, largely in Spanish, which is awesome. Enjoy it. So for the missionaries, for Kyle Turley, thank you for joining us. For me, I'm Mark Mabry, and I appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
When it rains, it pours. When my mind is troubled from the storms. If I were wanting 90 sheep, would you please rescue me. When I needed you right by my side, you sent your favorite angels with powers they could guide. You sent sisters to hold me when my mind was troubled still. And through the mouth of chosen, you said, breathe, peace, be still. Oh, breathe. Oh, please. Oh, please. Breathe. Cuando estaba sola